Welcome back, Chiefs Kingdom. What are your Chiefs going to do? They're going to get better on offense. The defense is going to continue to crush, and they're going to whoop up on these Jets elites. That's how I feel today. We're going to go over it all with Matt Derrick from ChiefsDigest.com here on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. Hope you're doing well. It's Locked On Chiefs, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day for free on every platform. So like, sub, hit that bell on YouTube. You can check it out on Spotify. You can get on Apple. You can get it anywhere you want. You can check out the Chiefs Digest website where our editor, Matt Derrick, is here. You can also check out his YouTube. That is Chiefs Digest as well. A lot going on here. We thank you for your first and check out another Locked On show for next one. There's a Jet show that you probably want to check out as they get ready for this upcoming ball game. We have plenty for you, and we have some great sponsors coming up today. We thank you for your time, and welcome to the show. It is Matt Derrick, man on the beat of ChiefsDigest.com. Matt, today is a fun day because I think this is like phase 2 of this particular season. Sometimes it only takes a weak opponent to kind of set you up to extol your vices and get rid of some of the baggage. There's still a couple of things they have to work on, but I felt like this last ball game against the Chicago Bears, who just really, frankly, couldn't put up much of a fight, got them back on the right track to really be using all of their tools and being who they are. Do you see it that way, or is this just the fact that they're playing a weak team?
Well, it probably starts with just playing a weak team. Now the question is, were there things that the Chiefs were dealing with that were maybe confidence issues, things that, getting a good get-right game will help you get past? That could be the case. I mean, Andy Reid, I asked him last week, if this was a case of, like Steve Spagnuolo says on the defensive side, that sometimes you just have to, figure out what you have, and it might take a quarter into the season. And Andy kind of gave me a wink and a nod, was like, and literally says, no, I know what we got. It's just a matter of not making mistakes. Well, you saw against the Bears what happens when you don't make mistakes. You can put up 34 points in a half. Things were slower in the second half where they kind of made a few of those mistakes. The second team guys got in, some issues there, here and there. But no, I mean, if this was a get-right game for the Chiefs, then this could be the beginning of, really putting the struggles of the first couple of weeks behind them. And I think the Jets are another opportunity for them to continue to get right and get their heads straight.
A couple of things that stand out to me that I'd like your take on is, yes, it affords you a situation where you can be a little bit more experimental and maybe not have to push all of your offense's intricacies. But I really do believe attaining balance again in the offense, the volume that they decided to make on the ground, I feel like that still brings back the physicality, the confidence issue. I think that's a really important one that you mentioned. And that kind of ties everything back together. So I think as a precautionary tale, you can't really go back away from that. Is it going to be as many carries as we saw this last week? I don't think so. But the mix still has to be in that 30 to 35% because you still got to get those yards. How important that is for these next couple of weeks to solidify where this offense is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, historically, and especially at least if you want to narrow it down to the Patrick Mahomes era, as much as, you want to rely on Patrick Mahomes and his arm, the Chiefs are their most effective offensively when they run the football and run it well. No, they're not going to be great if they're not running it efficiently, but if they can run the football well, that just makes the passing game in Mahomes so much more effective. And we saw back-to-back weeks of how that is an example. I mean, offensively, first half against the Jaguars, they were completely out of balance. They only had 2 designed runs. And, and Matt Nagy told me that was not by design. They had a few RPOs in there that, Mahomes goes ahead and makes the read to go ahead and throw the football. And if there is still one weakness, I would say, in the Patrick Mahomes game, and there's not many of them, one still is that he always wants to throw the football. And, and it's not that he doesn't maybe sometimes make the correct read, but maybe he decides, wait a minute, I can make this play work. I can make the throw work. And he decides to throw it instead of giving the football to the running back. And the thing is that, 3 of those decisions and a half can make a tremendous difference, because had the Chiefs even run the football 5 or 6 times in the first half against the Jaguars, maybe Jacksonville respects the run game a little bit more. But when they don't, drop back in pass coverage all the time, that's all they're looking for. The teams are going to stop that. So you saw in the second half against Jacksonville what happens with a balanced run attack. You saw in the first half against the Bears what happens with a balanced run attack. If the Chiefs can keep on that path, and and some of that's going to be that they're going to have to probably give Mahomes a few more designed runs. He needs to work on the decision making to commit to the run occasionally on those RPOs. But I don't think there's any doubt. I mean, when this team is multifaceted, there's not a lot that can stop them. And go back to 2018 when they had Kareem Hunt in that first half of that season. That offense with that running back and that ability was completely unstoppable. And that's no knock against Pacheco or any of the guys that they have now. But if they're able to get to that level again, they're going to be unstoppable again.
I equate this, and Patrick's Patrick. Can you really justify taking it out of his hands? Well, in order to help him, yes, you definitely can justify that. But I equate it to, Matt Nagy's got to be a little bit more of a parent, in my opinion. Andy Reid's got to be a little bit more of a parent. This is like forcing your kid to eat vegetables. Patrick, you got to run the ball sometimes. So in my opinion, I still feel like the next step towards this evolution is that you have to not put the RPO calls in there. You have to call actual runs where there isn't an option for him to just pull it out and say, I can do this because I can do this. Is that something that they're even considering or willing to do given the prowess that is Patrick Mahomes?
Oh, absolutely. They will, and they do. And I'm glad you have bought into the vegetable analogy, Ryan. That is my greatest contribution to the Chiefs offense, eating its vegetables. And that comes back to how do the Chiefs get out of balance? I mean, and it's two ways. I mean, one, Andy Reid wants to throw the football. I mean, that's his default position too. So he wants to throw the football. The quarterback wants to throw the football. When they get in that mode together and there's not a governor to stop them, and Matt Nagy is that governor essentially. I mean, that's what you have to have. I mean, you got to be able to have your offensive coordinator who's like, wait a minute, we're gonna mix some stuff in here. Hey, was Eric Bieniemy that governor at times? Probably. I mean, because he was definitely more of a run kind of guy. Even though I think he became more of the throw kind of guy by the end of the tenure in Kansas City. And Matt Nagy's the same way. But you've got it is a chess game. And the thing is that if you go into a chess match, if you're a world-class player, and I know enough about chess to know that if you make the exact same moves every single time, your opponent's going to know that. And you can't be predictable. You got to mix things up. And that's what the run game is for the Chiefs. Are they going to win games by running for 240 yards? No, that's not what they're going to do. But if a defense is able to just sit back and know that you're going to throw the football consistently, that's not going to work long-term. So you got to mix it in. You got to be balanced. And, and Andy Reid's found his mix. I mean, if he runs the ball 35% of the time, that is generally a winning formula. 10%, not usually a winning formula.
Well, I didn't mean to steal your concept there. I'm
glad you did. I mean, I need all the more followers I can get. Come on, Ryan.
Great minds think alike. I will say this though, that the next thing is the mix is the proper term. Folks, make sure you join the text line. I'm going to tell you about that here in just a second, but you can't be one of those people that I always see when I go out to eat that separates the vegetables from the meat and the potatoes, right? Like you can't have it sectioned. It's not segregation on a plate. You got to mix it all in. It's like pasta. You just got to keep turning it over until it's all one dish. And I hope that that's the next thing that they do instead of what feels like opportunistic run drives. So that said, Matt came up with that concept. It wasn't me. I must have just stole it in my sleep. I don't know what it was. But if you guys want in on the action and get all the updates that we can give you immediately, make sure you sign up for the text line at 816-357-8781. You get my text notes. You get Chris's immediate text notes after the game as well. So check that out. But we have to get to what this Jets team is going to bring to this ball game. Can it really compete? And what are the Chiefs' strengths right now on defense that's going to sustain them through the next quarter of this season? We'll do that right after we hear from our friends at eBay. Our partners at eBay Motors are teaming up with Locked On Fantasy Football host Vinny Iyer to bring you the best fantasy picks every week, all season long. Whether you're scanning that waiver wire or you're driving in first place, you can get the best fit, and that's why it's guaranteed. So let's see who Vinny's picked out for our eBay's Guaranteed Fit Fantasy Picks of the Week this week. And off the top, it's wide receiver from Jacksonville, Calvin Ridley. He has the classic rebound timing here that he could get into after what was an up and down couple of weeks. It's a revenge opportunity in London week 4. The Sunday matchup with this former team, the Atlanta Falcons. Really, he's been very quiet so far. The Jacksonville Jaguars are kind of an enigma, but the last 2 weeks, but he will return for his stellar week 1 debut for his new team and get back on track. The Jaguars will do a better job of scheming him open clearly and making his massive target volume from Trevor Lawrence count big time over there in London. Now, a lot has to come there, and Vinny has all kinds of expectations about getting you to your fantasy championship, and eBay Motors knows how to do that as well with your ride. You want to get into it. It has the same fit for your vehicle. Over 122 parts are available for your ride or die, and it makes your ride always stay running smoothly and efficiently, from brake lights to headlights, radio mounts, all kinds of hubcaps, etc. Everything you could need for that ride of yours, eBay has it. And with the guaranteed fit, it's guaranteed to fit first time, every time, or your money back. Plus, at these prices, you're not burning rubber, you're not burning cash. You're making that fit work for you. So get over there and check it out. You can keep your ride or die alive really well at ebaymotors.com. That's guaranteed, available only for U.S. customers, eligible items only, and exclusions do apply. Excluding what's going on the offensive side, and we'll get back to a couple of aspects that we'll hope to see against the Jets here coming up later, folks. Make sure you like, sub, hit that bell here on YouTube. Now, for the defensive side of the ball, this was, again, I think a matchup that allowed itself to be without Nick Bolton. We talked post-game about how well Drew Tranquil played, and having that depth now, that developed depth, whether you can bring in Leo Chanel, who didn't play quite as much as I actually thought that he would, but he can do a little bit more, expanding the palette of what he's doing, rotating the defensive line. Those are all things that I think are sustainable here. The question for me is, when you look at the strengths of this defense right now, it is the play, I think, of the secondary. And it's been a bit opportunistic. It's been a bit surprising. My question to you is, from what we've seen, is it sustainable?
I mean, I think that it is. I mean, looking at the Chiefs and what they are right now defensively, you know, they're a top defense in a lot of categories. I mean, but the one that stands out is just how well that they are playing against the pass. Now, have they faced elite passers quite yet? I mean, Justin Fields, no, obviously is not. Jared Goff and Trevor Lawrence, I mean, to me, you're talking more about the high end of the game manager category. So have the Chiefs faced an elite quarterback yet? No, they haven't faced Joe Burrow. They haven't faced Justin Herbert, which they'll do twice. Josh Allen. I mean, you know, there are a lot of quarterbacks and down the road that they're going to face that are a whole lot better than the ones that they faced in the first 3 games. And they're also have been fortunate in that, you know, they've been facing some teams with some banged up offensive lines and especially some left tackle problems. And they've benefited from that in the passing game. But, you know, you look at just the raw numbers and just how well the secondary is playing. I mean, it's been pretty impressive. Now, the one thing that they've been, and the reason why I say it's sustainable is that they're doing it without turnovers. I mean, other than the 2 that, you know, Trent McDuffie has forced, I mean, they're in the middle of the pack as far as turnovers go. I think they're 14th in the league in turnovers. That's a boomer bust kind of category. I mean, that's something that, you know, all of a sudden you get 3 turnovers in a game and, you know, you're top 10 in the league this early in the season. They haven't been that yet. So, you know, if they become a team that suddenly starts to get the football go a couple of the, you know, ways that they're going, I mean, they've already had the games that go against them. Game 1 was that. They lost the game in week 1 because of turnovers and interceptions. I haven't really won a game yet because of turnovers and interceptions. I mean, they're going to get that. They're going to get their opportunities. But when I see a defense that's not turning the football over, that is this good against the pass, and I mean, the run game has been, you know, looking at, you know, yards per lap per carry, I think they're 14th. I mean, middle of the pack, but at least on the right side of middle of the pack. But it's one of the things that when you look at just the kind of fundamentals of the defensive numbers, those are sustainable. I mean, they're not just piling up, you know, backing into big games because they were getting a bunch of sacks and a bunch of turnovers. They're playing really well and playing really well as a unit and not giving up a lot of open spaces. Let's see what happens, you know, here in a few weeks when they start facing some better quarterbacks, because we won't get that answered this week, but we'll get it answered in October about whether this pass defense is for real.
Yeah, they're averaging giving up less than 14 points a game, less than 2 touchdowns, a total of 40. That puts them at 4th in the league. In terms of yards per game, they're sitting at 280. That puts them 6th in the league. Yes, the run is problematic, but it always is. It's a decision that this coaching staff makes every single year. So we shouldn't be too concerned about that. My question is, how do they step it up? What's the next evolution here? Is it just waiting for Menahue to get back for them to add to what they would then consider their full lineup, with Chris Jones having well worked back into his shape? Or is there something else systemically that they need to do? Are we still talking about maybe another addition at edge or something like that? Or is this defense right now fully equipped and ready to go into the second part of the season?
Well, and the thing is that I think they have those pieces in house. They just haven't had to go to them yet. You mentioned a Menahue on the front end. I mean, there is nothing at this point that really should make you worry about the pass rush. And if anything, you're saying to yourself, wait a minute, when a Menahue comes back, suddenly the defensive line on the edges and everything like that, that's another weapon. Menahue obviously is somebody who can kick inside, although I don't think that would be the primary. But consider this, the way that the Chiefs have played the first 3 weeks, they've been doing it without really any contributions for the most part from Neil Farrell and Keandre Coburn. And those are both guys that, once they get more comfortable, I mean, Coburn as a rookie and Farrell as a guy just coming in right before the beginning of the season in that trade, these are guys that you can count on in the second half of the season. And I think the way they're handling Coburn is probably a lot inspired by Colin Saunders because, remember Colin's rookie year, he kind of got forced in and had to play a lot early on. And both as a rookie and with that body type, I think it cost him in the second half of the season. I think they're managing Coburn with the philosophy of, wait a minute, rookies are going to be better in the second half of the season anyway. Let's get the bulk of his work when he is more comfortable, when he can start giving some quality time to give some guys some breathers. So, I mean, I feel like that's, kind of the recipe. And remember, they're also doing it on the back end without Nick Jones playing any, the secondary. That's another guy that, you can really add in. And I was really impressed with, before the hand injury. So you get him fully back and healthy. I mean, there's 3 guys right there that are on the active roster. That 4 guys, I mean, you're bringing on Menahue in with, a guy who's not on the active roster yet, but you're factor in that, you don't have to go out and sign a free agent to bulk up what they have. I mean, I think that their second half additions are really on this team already.
I think that makes plenty of sense. And I kind of feel the same way because right now the operating capital, I think you need to maintain. And because you have all those options, it's not like you have one guy in reserve that you're just waiting to get back, whether it's a Menahue or anybody else. So it's that verity that I think you can bring, variety, if I say that correctly, that you can bring to the defense that allows you to expand. But can they be ready for the Jets? What does that mean? I think you're going to get a steady dose of the run. We're going to have to ask about the quarterback. We're going to touch on all of that here in a minute. But first, got to tell you, you got to need to be prepared. Being prepared means that you can handle whatever pops up. And sometimes that means an emergency. Sometimes that means, for me living out here, a wildfire at times. You have tornadoes back in Kansas and Missouri. It is important to be prepared and empowered to do that. And Jase Medical does that for you. Everyone should be empowered to take care of themselves and their loved ones during something that is unexpected. That's why they provide the Jase Case. The Jase Case provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use that gives you peace of mind so you're not out there hoping for access to medical equipment or medical help or any kind of pharmaceuticals that maybe are in a natural disaster you can't even get to in an emergency. So Jase is stepping in to help you with that. It makes sure that you have the medication you need in hand, and Jase Medical is simple. They handle everything for you. It's from an online evaluation, a licensed pharmacy, and a medication delivery service. They all combine to do on-site delivery and ongoing consultation and care so you don't get caught unprepared. And right now, they're making it even easier. You can get $20 off of life-saving antibiotics today with the Jase Case by using our code LOCKEDON at checkout at jasemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. So you can get that Jase Case and a little bit of peace of mind. Now, when you have that peace of mind, like you do coming off of a big win like the Chiefs just did, and folks, make sure that you're on the text line, you're all subbed up both here and at Chiefs Digest, and check out everything that Matt's doing at Chief Digest, because there's a lot that goes into this ballgame. Clearly, story of week 1 was Aaron Rodgers' injury, and now that they've kind of settled down, what do you have left in New York that the Chiefs should be concerned about? On the defensive side, the Chiefs defense needs to take a look at Garrett Wilson, maybe arguably the best young receiver in the league, certainly coming off of a sensational rookie season. But yet, even without Aaron Rodgers, he's had a little bit more up and down as you expect from a backup quarterback, but he's still out there putting out. You have Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook, a two-headed monster in the run game, which I feel is probably for the Jets the best way to try to attack the Chiefs. So maybe that's where Coburn comes in. Maybe that comes into making sure that you have Nick Bolton back, which feels like that's something that we should expect. But is that your expectation that the run game is going to be more prevalent this week than it was last?
Yeah, I mean, you look at the Jets offense and how are they going to win football games? I mean, they're not going to win them by putting them in the hands of Zach Wilson. They're going to be winning games because if they're able to run the football effectively. And they've got to be looking at the Chiefs defense through the first three games and saying that's the one area that they think that they can attack, especially if Nick Bolton is not back in there or 100%. I think that's absolutely where you go. I mean, you kind of want to attack the middle of the field, go after Drew Tranquill and force the Chiefs in the middle of that defense to beat you. I mean, we'll see how much Chris Jones didn't play a lot last week, and he was very productive, obviously, in the snaps that he did. But let's face it, Chris Jones is going to be most effective when the other team is throwing the football. If he's running the ball, it's kind of a classic of just run right at him, run at Drew Tranquill. I mean, I think that's what the Jets would have to do. If they put this game in the hands of Zach Wilson, I mean, they know they're going to lose. So as talented as they have some guys, now granted, I mean, there are ways that you can, try and get Zach Wilson going. I mean, help him get rid of the football quickly, ways to get it out to the receivers and take advantage of, their speed. I mean, there are ways you can game plan to try and do that. But, what do the Jets do? They make mistakes. And that's what the Chiefs have to do. They have to force them to make mistakes. This isn't a team that, should be very good in the red zone. And the Chiefs defense so far has been very good in the red zone. And part of that is that I think it's much tougher for teams to run against the Chiefs in the red zone because, they really know that they can't throw against them. I mean, so the Chiefs are able to sell out against the run a little bit and just defend on that secondary to do their jobs. So we'll see. But I mean, this is not, once again, a Jets team that scares me on either side. The Chiefs match up very well against them. But if the Jets are able to run the football effectively and play keep away a little bit and keep this into a low scoring game, maybe that's their path to victory. I think it's a very slim path, but it's the one way to go is, ball control, don't turn the football over and hope that the Chiefs make a mistake.
I mean, you look at their performance last week and how they were able to pass block. I think it's an issue when rookie Joe Tippmann is your best pass blocker against a New England front that is not full of all-stars as well. So I do think there's concern there. When you look at the opposite, though, maybe the strength of this team, and maybe even with Aaron Rodgers, the strength of this team is going to be the defense, a significant front that can get after the passer, can stop the run themselves. But this offense is starting to come into its own, like we talked about earlier. And I really feel like Rahsee Rice is the guy that is stepping up into a role that is bigger than we expected through 3 games anyway. And I expect he's going to have an opportunity against the second-tier defense, second line of that defense, the linebacker level and safety level for the Jets. Is he a guy that you'd like to see fed some more as they did last week, or is there some other direction you'd like to see the offense go in?
No, I mean, I think you continue to like to see Rahsee Rice get the football, especially though, I mean, just so he can maybe start putting these little tiny mistakes that he's making behind him. The drops are a problem. I mean, and with a rookie, to a degree, you're going to live through those mistakes. And I think we talked about this after the game on Sunday. I mean, if Rahsee Rice needed to make a mistake like the drop that turns into an interception that goes the other direction big, you learned that in a blowout, that's great. You don't want to learn that in the 22-21 loss. So you need to get Rahsee Rice to figure things out in games just like this. But at the same time, I mean, I think we know what the Chiefs are. I mean, they're going to be a receiver group by committee. I mean, right now, their leader in receiving yards is Justin Watson. So, I mean, that tells you a lot about the state of that receiver room right now and just what it is. Right now, at this point in their careers, there's not an alpha number one in that receiver group right now. Somebody's got to separate themselves. And who's it going to be? I mean, the back of his football card says it's not going to be Marquez. So your best bets are young guys and betting on them. And that's Sky Moore and Rahsee Rice. And So, I mean, I think those are the two guys that you want to try and get involved more, see what they can do, because if there's any guy that's going to bust out and develop into a true number one receiver, it's going to be one of those two guys. So to me, invest your targets, invest your plays and snaps in those two guys right now, because you need to find out what they've got. And through first 3 games, I mean, I will say this, Rahsee Rice, his production thus far is really good for a rookie in an Andy Reid offense. I mean, if you're able to get 500 yards receiving as a rookie in an Andy Reid offense, you're doing something. And Rahsee Rice is on his way there.
Yeah, it looks like he's on pace there. And the strength of the defense in New York is clearly Sauce Gardner in the secondary, because he's coming off of that defensive rookie of the year. He's not exactly playing up to the same level, though. He and Trent McDuffie are respectively tied for the 9 spot in PFF's ratings overall, and in particular, not making those forced PBUs yet. So is it the big body that can get past him in Watson? Is it Rahsee Rice dragging him into the middle of the field? Those are the kind of concepts that I want to see. And obviously, Travis Kelce seems like he's ready to go, maybe a little bit invigorated by, the tunes in his head or whatever Taylor happens to be whispering to him. But is this a week that you still want to see that be the focus of the offense, feeding Travis and then moving around? Or is there something else you'd like to see them attack first?
Yeah, I mean, this is an interesting one, because with the Jets and what they're able to do, I mean, you've got Sauce Gardner on one side, so you can have him handling one part of the field. That allows you, since you're going to be using him exclusively in single coverage on somebody, that allows you to double team Travis. So now if you're the Chiefs, there's probably 2 places that aren't ideal for the football to go. Now, Travis, it can beat double coverages. So there's going to be ways that he and Patrick can kind of work around that a little bit. But, it's going to be, okay, who's the majority of the time is Sauce going up against? I mean, where's that side of the football? The ball's going to be going opposite to where he's going most of the time. So that's why it's going to be up to, some of these other guys to come up and make some plays. I think you're going to have to, just move the football around, take that committee approach. If you want to be, I don't want to say cautious, because the Chiefs offense is never really very cautious, but why challenge the heart of the Jets defense if you don't have to? I mean, just like we're talking about, if I'm the Jets, you're going to attack the weak parts of the Chiefs defense. Do the same thing on the other side. So, teams are not going to be testing Sauce Gardner this year. I mean, they're not going to be challenging him. Ball's going to go elsewhere. So catch is that, when you're the Chiefs and you got a tight end that's got so much coverage, there's going to be 1 or 2 guys getting single coverage all day long. And those are the guys that are going to have to step up.
Yeah. I look for it to be something that it kind of hems and haws in the beginning, and then they see how they can exploit it. I do expect, hopefully with a little bit more run action, they get some true play action going as well. We'll knock on wood. You can see everything that Matt has for you over at ChiefsDigest.com and at Chiefs Digest here on YouTube. So check out that channel as well. Tomorrow, we're going to be back. We're going to take a look inside the Jets organization and what's going on behind the scenes. And Friday, we're going to preview the ball game for you so you know what to expect. We appreciate you guys being with us. And Matt, thanks for your time as always. Very, very helpful.
Always a pleasure, Ryan.
And so sorry to steal your concept. We'll get that straight now.
That was just an homage. I appreciate it.
Yes, that's what we do. Folks, check out the vegetable analogy at ChiefsDigest.com. Thanks for being with us today. Make sure you like, sub, get that bell, and get 816-357-8781 for that text line. Enjoy your day, and we'll be back with you tomorrow.